Hello everybody, my name is Hammock. Today I'm going to go and talk about the weapons that exist in TF2. Some of them are either broken, don't feel as good, maybe they were broken before, and now they're just kind of and talk about ideas I have for potentially making them more fun or less broken. This is just in case the heavy update rolls around and we get a massive content patch, or maybe we get another content patch at some given time. As long as it's as long as it comes out and it's good, then I don't really mind how long it takes. Preferably within the decade, though. Otherwise, I'll probably be doing other things by then. So let's get into it. First of all, I'd like to start with the Thompson 6000, a weapon I like to use even though it's terrible. For this one, we'll have to do a full rework. I would like the projectile to function very similarly to the Rescue Ranger in terms of speed and damage. It pretty much so if you are using the Rescue Ranger a lot and you can aim with the Rescue Ranger, then you can switch to Thompson. Much like how if you use the rocket launcher, you can still aim with the black box because they're the same, just different ammo count basically, as opposed to getting used to different projectile speeds like the direct hit and the rocket launcher. And instead of on hit applying drains, which are sort of questionable, they sort of have a lot of problems. A lot of people don't like them. I feel like it could be tweaked a bit. Instead, we're just going to replace that and make it so the amount of damage that you do on the attack, you get back as metal. So it's very similar to the Widowmaker, but functioning as a projectile weapon for people who prefer to use projectile weapons as opposed to hit scan. And also being a projectile weapon, it's more likely that you're going to get consistent chunks of metal doing about 40 or 30 damage if you shoot someone from further away. I would say that the weapon, instead of using metal to fire like the Widowmaker, I wouldn't want it to be an exact copy. I do like the idea of shooting someone to get back metal because your whole class revolves around whether you have metal. I personally don't end up using Widowmaker a lot because you have to spend metal to shoot. It kind of changes the playstyle in a way that you feel less inclined to be building teleporters and dispensers a lot, and you feel more like you should just be taking fights constantly and making use of the fact that if you get into close range and you can survive long enough, you can just keep shooting. But for this one, I'd say sticking with it being similar to Rescue Ranger, it would have a four shot clip. You shoot someone, you do damage, and you get back metal, but you don't spend metal to shoot. This way, whenever you're maintaining a base, you can fire off a few shots at some enemies, get some metal back, use it to upgrade, or use it when you're playing more combat engineer, shooting people and then dropping down minis. It would also just be nice in general to have Thompson actually feel like a deathmatch weapon, because currently Rescue Ranger is a lot more reliable of a deathmatch weapon than Thompson, which is very clearly designed to be shooting people to be applying negative effects. Just because the way the projectile works, it's been changed so many times in order to fix bugs. It's just a really difficult and unforgiving projectile to hit. I haven't met anybody who can consistently aim with it, and if they can, they're a fucking hero. But to be honest, if you can aim really well with the Thompson, you'll be getting much better results by using any other weapon. Second suggestion is quite simple, it is for the short circuit. It is to make it so when you have it active, as in when you have it out, you do not gain any metal when you're next to dispensers or payloads. The reason why I say dispensers as well is because I believe in the game's code, the payload counts as a dispenser, so making it affect a payload and not a dispenser might be tricky, but if there's a way to make it only affect a payload, that would be more ideal. But currently, short circuit is a little bit too strong, especially in situations like that where you have free metal next to a payload which has an infinite source of metal, as opposed to the metal pool that is in a dispenser. So you can kind of just sit on the cart and just spam short circuit. And I'm pretty sure that if we can get this change made, it'll be more likely that we'll see short circuit unbanned in a competitive scenario. Because currently, it's just pretty oppressive. You just sit on the cart, spam short circuit, and any kind of explosive class just can't do anything to you. My next change is for the Southern Hospitality. It is a full rework, since I currently think that the Southern Hospitality is the worst wrench, in that its design doesn't really do anything. The extra bleed on hit doesn't contribute to any additional bonus to damage. You're still going to kill a spy in 2 hits. Perhaps if you hit a spy with Sun Hospitality and then follow up with a Rescue Ranger shot, it then could put them into a kill. But if you get those two opportunities, the spy is going to either kill you within that time, or you could have just done it with like a shotgun or with another range. It's like a very niche situation in which that could pull off, and even then, that's specifically against a spy like a 125 HP class. If it's another class like a scout, they'd have killed you in that time. Or if it's a sniper and you got next to him as an engineer, well, they kind of fucked up, you know? But this one for the Sun Hospitality would be to make it so it destroys sappers in one hit, so it does double building damage, but it swings about 15% slower. Number is up in the air. I don't know math too well, but the idea being that it swings a little bit slower as its main downside, which is potentially quite bad because it means you can overall repair your gun and build stuff slower. But being able to one-hit sappers means that if you go into your loadout and you're trying to itemize against a certain team comp and you find that the spy is the main issue, like you're not worried about anybody else, but the spy just keeps going after you, that's kind of demoralizing and means like, well, sappers, you don't really have anything to deal especially well with sappers. So that's one of those situations where if you're playing a pub, you're like, well, time to switch class, I guess, because if no one's dealing with the spy for me, I can't really do anything extra about it. So having a weapon that specifically allows you to break sappers really quickly, especially when you're dealing with someone who's just sitting on the other end of your telly and just sapping repeatedly, would be quite nice. Otherwise, my other potential idea would be in line with the fact that we have Gunslinger that changes the sentry to a mini sentry with Iruka effect that pretty much changes tellies in general to make them more efficient. If we could somehow rework the Sun Hospitality to be the dispenser wrench, where having an equip increases dispenser range like you're playing MVM, or does some other thing to make the dispensers more useful. Maybe it even gives people minor overheal when they're on the dispenser. That would be kind of cool. Or it just lets you build dispensers a lot quicker. That could be pretty cool too. However, since doing a wrench based around the dispenser takes a lot more overall balancing, I'm just going to stick with my it destroys a sapper in one hit idea just because it's pretty simple and it kind of fits the like theme of the Sun Hospitality, having the sort of spikes and stuff on it. It makes you feel like, wow, that's a powerful wrench. That's more of like it feels like it's going to do something when you hit something with it, right? Like it feels a little bit more like designed to be like dangerous. And maybe you swing a little bit slower because you're like, oh no, I don't want to swing this too quickly. What if I stab myself? Next change is controversial, but I'm pretty sure everybody agrees with it except sniper mains. I wonder why. But for all sniper rifles, the window for headshots will be delayed by roughly a second, maybe a little bit more. This means that if you were to scope in and headshot someone, you have to wait a little bit more before the headshot actually comes off. Otherwise, you just do 50 damage like you no-scope somebody. Because we all know that sniper rifle is basically just a melee weapon that does 150 damage. And it's not even that hard. You just throw your mouse left or right and you headshot somebody. I'm actually pretty sure you have a higher chance of headshotting if you throw your mouse as opposed to like manually like track aiming. But that's a problem we've had for a while. I don't even think it's a skill thing. I think it's pretty fucking easy considering I can do it and I've got a joint disability so I can't even aim properly. So if I can do it, then it's likely that anyone who puts enough time into the game can do it, and I feel like it's something that needs to be resolved. The next one is also a controversial thing that I feel like a lot of people dislike, and that would be to remove the bunny hop crit sustain on the Market Gardener, as in that little trick they do, where if they miss their Market Gardener, they can bounce on the ground with a frame-perfect bunny hop and get a crit, which is absolute bullshit. And, you know, if that can't be fixed because maybe it's an engine issue or it's some kind of bug fix thing where it's really hard to fix because this game is made of spaghetti, like you try to fix it and somehow all of Pyro's hats flip upside down or something, then make it so the Market Gardener swings really slow like the Caber. Because, to be honest, I'm actually quite confused why the Market Gardener has been left in this state for so long, considering the fact that there was such a rampant nerfing of the Extinguisher. For the fact that people didn't like the fact that the Pyro could do anything in close range, considering that's what they do. They just kept nerfing Extinguisher, and Soldier pretty much having the exact same weapon be able to crit in their own territory, jumping around, which they can do, especially with gunboats and air strafing, and the fucking base jumper, and the rocket jumper. Like, it's so easy to get a Market Garden. I'm surprised that this thing has been allowed to be this strong for a while. But slower like swing speed, that's just fine. If you miss your first swing anyway, it's likely you're going to hit the ground before you get the second swing off, unless you're jousting someone in the air. So it's not going to be a real problem. It's only enough to people exploiting the game's mechanics by trying to bunny hop and prolong the window so they can keep missing. Come on, it's simple. Now for some really fun stuff. I'm going to propose a couple full reworks for 2 heavy melee weapons, which were pretty cool. They were used for mobility. They were pretty cool for a while, where like you could use them to run really fast, but they drained your health. But then they reworked them, so they made it so your max health went down as you were running to the front line. But then when you got to the front line and switched weapon, they would tick back up very slowly. So it basically became a trade-off of, do you want to get to the front line faster, but then wait, or you're going to die to like 2 rockets? Or do you want to waddle there but be full health, in which case you most likely enter the fight at around about the same time, so it feels a little bit weird? But basically, clothes are running urgently. Full rework. Now when you have them out, you can press reload to do a charge, like the Demo Man, but it doesn't do any damage when you hit somebody. It has a 12-second cooldown, like the Taj, and costs 50 hit points to use. Since that's kind of the health pool you're going with as heavy, I feel like if you have something that uses a new resource, you might as well use health. It also has the same turn rate as Tide Turner, so potentially we could have heavy Trimps. Ooh, I mean, it's heavy, which has had like the problems of no one wants to play them really because they're the least interesting class really. There isn't like a lot of tech, and most of Heavy's tech comes from just being good at the game in general and having game sense and having good aim. So it'd be nice just to have like mobility stuff. And I personally would love to see on maps like Process a Heavy doing like a Trimp rollout and just fucking flying, and like you'll just have like the Heavies like it's like flying into battle. That would be so great. And also potentially along with this change, if possible, I don't know how it exactly works. It might be something that's like tied to the game itself and that can't be changed. But when a Heavy has spun up their weapon, currently you can't airstrafe at all. As soon as you spin up, you're just fixed moving in a direction. If you could maintain it so you could spin up your gun and be able to still airstrafe, that would be perfect. Because imagine just seeing a Heavy Trimp and then fly somewhere and then spin up a brass beast and just be like, just flying through the sky. That'd be so funny. People would be like, wait, oh, my whole computer just went on standby because I've been staring at my screen without moving anything too long. Yeah, people will probably say like, man, that sounds broken. A Heavy flying at you with a minigun, doing like a bunch of damage if you're close range. I'm like, yeah, but you've got a Sticky Jumper demo who will fly at you and then destroy you, or a soldier flying at you who will destroy you with like Airstrike, Beggars, Market Gardener, pretty much just generic loadout. Like, mobility is the thing that makes TF2 very fun, so we should just give it Heavy, to be honest. Plus, he's still going to be slow. He doesn't have any means of, like, rocket jumping, so the trimping potential is going to be vastly more limited than Demo. But still pretty cool to try. It's definitely going to speed up rollouts and make Heavy seem a lot more fun. You're still going to get the people who are going to be like, oh man, can't wait to be the best Heavy Trimper, and just go for these rollouts, and people will be like, what the fuck? And you'll see like a Heavy just like Trimp fly through the air, flying in the air, and then yeet a sandwich as he's flying, and he air shots, and it hits the like the soldier doing the fast rollout, and he heals, and it's like, oh my god, it's so cool. Like, making anything like highly mobile just makes it more interesting, and you're going to get way more like interesting like frag clips and stuff going on. So why not, really? Why not? Onto the eviction notice, which is a little bit different, but still works in the whole mobility theme. It'll be a full rework. It now has a damage meter, similar to like the Contra. And when you have it out, you gain 10% extra movement speed. When the meter is filled up, which is about 480 damage, like the Contra, you and nearby allies within 450 units move roughly 35% faster for 10 seconds. So yeah, it's basically the Contra. It's not an original idea, but people have been talking about, what if we gave Heavy banners? That'd be kind of cool. Giving Heavy mini crits? Giving heavy battalions? Battalions is already, like, really strong. I don't think we need to make heavy more durable. But Contra, specifically the move speed bonus, I feel like that's pretty good, especially since you are going to be doing a lot of damage anyway as heavy. You're going to be sitting back just chunking people from a distance with like Tomislav, or just taking on fights, and then either you take on a fight with your medic, you kill a bunch of people, maybe your medic dies, maybe everyone's really hurt, you then pull out your eviction notice, you activate it, Heavy does like a sort of commanding yell like, yes, we can do this, and then you and all the people nearby charge in and run really fast towards the enemy to like, all right, we've killed a bunch of people, let's go run towards the objective and cap. Like, Heavy's the leader of the fight. You want to go in with your Heavy with, like, an Uber, or go in after, like, killing people, and then he's just going to be like, all right, follow me, let's go fucking deal with this shit, and just go after the objective. Or you're in the opposite situation, where you just did a fight, you barely got out of it, you and a lot of people are low, maybe your medic's on fire and you need to get to a health pack, you activate Eviction Notice, and you do a tactical retreat and you back off. I feel like that could be pretty cool. Next is for the Man Melter, which I think is a really cool weapon concept, although whenever I play Pyro, I can't really, like, rationalize myself using it. I feel like it's cool, but it's a little bit too specific, and I can't really find a reason to want to use it without feeling like I'm losing out, really, with all the other interesting Pyro secondaries. Now, since it already has a pretty cool theme of being more supporty, in the sense that oh, you can already, like, you know, extinguish people, but this one gives you a bonus, like, oh shit, there's a lot of, like, Scorch Shot Pyros or Detonator Pyros being really annoying. I'm just gonna, like, slurp up all these crits and be rewarded for it by shooting people. Except you can already do crits if you just shoot a flag gun or something like that. So, what if, since the Man Melter has an automatic reload thing, you don't need to press reload. When you press reload with the Man Melter, you can heal yourself and all nearby allies for 50 hit points per charge that you consume, up to a maximum of 200, so like 4 charges. And then potentially also on top of that, the healing is treated like health pickups, just in case you have the Back Scratcher equipped. That way, if you extinguish somebody, you get a charge, and you have Man Melter, you have Back Scratcher equipped, you can consume that health and then gain an additional bonus on top of that. I think that's kind of cool, because if you're picking up Man Melter, you're more likely to be already, like, having the supporting kind of mindset. So this gives Pyro a way of healing, which I feel like is nice, giving, like, every class, like, some kind of heal ability. And this seems pretty cool, but it's also specific enough that, like, if you're in a situation where you're getting a lot of people set on fire and you're extinguishing them, then you got, like, a cool reward. Like, oh no, everyone's suffering the bane of existence known as the Scorch Shot, where you're going to be set on fire for all eternity. Well, I'm going to, like, oh, I got, like, 3 crits by extinguishing these 3 people, and then boom, all of you get 150. All right, nice. Like, just immediately, like, fix that problem, which I think is kind of cool, since Pyro's already a support class. Might as well lean into it by giving Pyro some kind of heal. Next one is for the Equalizer, which is another one of those weapons that I'm like, oh yeah, that weapon exists. And now that I remember it, I'm never going to actually equip it again, because in most situations I'll be like, all right, I'm going to use Escape Plan to run away or for rollouts. I'm going to use the Disciplinary Action for rollouts, and because the whoosh sounds pretty cool. But I don't think I'm going to use the Equalizer at all. So, on top of its existing effects, because, you know, it's pretty balanced, it's pretty good, whenever you kill a player, they drop a small health pack. Because what's more of an equalizer than if someone has more health than you kill them, you now create them into a health pack, as well as the ammo pack that you get from killing them, and you heal up. I feel like that's equalizer situation. Especially if a Pyro is really annoying you, you just turn around, random crit them with an Equalizer, and then you pick up the health pack from them, and you're like, ah, yes, balance is restored in the universe. Next one is for the Homewrecker. Now, this will also potentially be controversial, but even me, an engineer main, I feel like that the Pyro can remove sappers is way too strong. That is busted. Because if you think about it, the Pyro is generally there to prevent the spy. And if the spy got the sap on the building and then killed the Engie, then the spy did his job and the Pyro didn't do their job. So the fact that the pyro can be like, oh, never mind, and just break the sappers really sucks, and it's kind of really demotivating as a spy. I mean, spy in general is pretty demotivating since they've been nerfed a lot, and it's a class based on poorly thought out mechanics and people barely skirting the line between exploits. But getting a stab on an NG and then sapping the gun when the pyro is spy checking nearby and you got the perfect window of opportunity only for the pyro to be like, well, I'm just going to desap all this and wait for NG to respawn. It kind of sucks, and I feel like we should get rid of that. So, in exchange for removing the ability for the Homewrecker to damage sappers, we're going to make it so the Homewrecker can now speed up the construction of buildings as if another NG is hitting them with a wrench. So you drop a sentry, dispenser, telly, as they're building, the NG's walking over to a ammo pack, hitting their sentry, they're upgrading it, and everyone else is like, man, we really want this dispenser, but, you know, we can't have two of them upgraded, built quick enough. So you get the pyro just walk over to one of the buildings they want and just hit it with the Homewrecker, and it'll build faster, which will help with building setups if you have a Pybro. That way it still kind of fits. People who play Pybro aren't going to feel like they've wasted all their investment on a strange or a collector's Homewrecker with all these strange parts and stuff, or a professional killstreak Homewrecker. You're still going to use it if you're a Pybro. Plus, whenever people build a dispenser, whenever an NG builds a dispenser, allies nearby are going to be hitting over melee anyway because they're trying to signal to the NG, hey, build this, hey, build. So, you see a pyro with a Homewrecker just hit a building as it's being built up in a rollout, because I imagine they're probably either signaling to the NG hey, I've got a Homewrecker, I have your back, friend, or they're just doing it because it's cute. Because, seeing a pyro hitting a building with a hammer while they're crouched is the cutest shit in the world. Either way, I feel like this is a good trade. The next is for all medic primaries to gain passive reload when not active, like the crossbow. So currently the crossbow functions very similar to the flare gun, where you fire a shot, you switch over to your medigun, you heal somebody, you pull it out again, and it's reloaded as if the time that was spent switching out was if you were doing the reload animation. I feel like all the medic primaries should have this benefit, since all the medic primaries compared to crossbow just aren't that good, to be honest. It's not that crossbow is OP, it's that crossbow feels a very strong niche, and all the other weapons kind of just don't. They're just not up to par. And this would certainly help, because there's a lot of situations where I'm I'm going to run syringe gun and just give myself that wave of nostalgia. But I'll shoot a pyro who's on me, and then I'll spend maybe 20 needles. I switch over to my medigun to go back to healing, and then suddenly there's a spy on me, and then I switch him out, and then oh crap, I haven't got enough needles because I've still got 20 left over from the time before, and then I die in a firefight that I probably could have won if I had 40 needles. And that just kind of sucks. It feels kind of clunky and inconvenient. And I feel like it's something that should be changed. It just gives me more reason crossbow, even though, it's a good DM weapon, but it's kind of designed for fighting people further away, while you would feel like weapons like syringe gun and Blutsauger and overdose must be better at closer range, right? But no, the crossbow's just better overall, because you can fire a shot, you go for an Ubersaw, you fire another shot, you go for an Ubersaw, as opposed to just spamming your syringe gun and then running out of shots and reloading and dying, or not having enough shots to begin with because they didn't actually reload. It just doesn't feel very nice. So yeah, I feel like that's just a universal change that I feel like everyone should agree on. Next is the Amputator. After doing the taunt to activate the buff, it maintains as long as you have the melee out. So that means if you do the taunt, the buff that keeps on healing people nearby, that persists as long as you have the weapon out, so you can run around with it. This will be cool if you're playing medieval mode for the 2 maps that exist for that. But also just because I feel like Amputator is a really cool concept, but it's just not worth the risk standing still going for the taunt when you could be killed, since you're the class that everybody wants to kill. And it's just not worth it for maybe it's good if you're playing 32 slot Dust Bowl servers, and you got 12 people in a tight spot around a choke and you can just heal all of them, possibly, but you don't even get that much Uber for it. So it feels kind of But being able to activate it and then be all right, time to run into battle like a paladin and fucking hit people with my Amputator, like trying to bone saw them while also healing yourself and people around you. That's pretty cool. I like that. That would be a cool thing to just run around and do in a pub because it's fun. But currently the base amputator just doesn't feel that cool. And if you're going to do something because it's fun, like, you might as well have it feel good instead of it just being like, well, back to doing the same meta loadout I've been running for the last 8 years. Now is the Blutsauger. This is a suggestion I came up with a while ago in one of my other videos where I was talking about weapon ideas, and I still feel like it's good, especially if you're going to buff all the primaries so they have passive reload. And that is that whenever you get healing from doing damage, like the extra healing you get when you shoot somebody, all that healing that you get is doubled to all allies nearby you. And this is roughly like dispenser range nearby you. It's pretty tight, just to stop it from being like spam of having like a couple medics in an area just mass healing everybody nearby. But it just means that like you can run around as a combat medic and you can shoot people and you can have fun in a video game about shooting people and not feel like you're wasting your time. Because if you're running around shooting people, then, and if people want healing, just come fight with the medic, you fucking idiot, and you'll get healing as long as you stand next to him and fight with them. That way it encourages more playstyles. The people who want to run in with an amputator out the entire time and bonk people because random crits are fair and balanced. The people who want to play the medic properly, but also the people who want to just, you know, have fun and play different playstyles, because this is a game about different playstyles and enjoying the game in your own ways. People enjoy this game by literally sitting in the corner and eating a sandwich, and I am one of those people, depending on certain days. But still, be nice to, you know, encourage different playstyles, and I would certainly like to have combat medic be a thing that is rewarded, and especially a thing that if someone picks medic, you know, like you look on your team and you're like, oh, no one's playing medic. Or like you look at someone playing medic and you're like, oh, this team's got a medic. I don't need to play medic now. And then you see them running around with the Blutsauger shooting people. You're like, I guess I have to play medic. But like, if you see them shooting the people and they're actually healing, you'll be like, oh, okay, I'll just stand near them. Maybe I'll go like Conchbox and I'll play with them and be like, yes, let's just do all the damage to them and heal everyone around us. That'll be cool. Like, you can kind of play around it a little bit more. I feel like your team shouldn't be punished for a certain person's playstyle. At the same time, that person's playstyle like shouldn't punish themselves in that regard of people just calling them like slurs in chat because they're not playing the like invite level meta that literally they cannot perform either because they're terrible at the game. Very specific reference, but you have all had that situation, I'm pretty sure. And finally, because I feel like I could ramble about this for hours, but I do want to just talk about some very simple ones to begin with, just in case this video ends up being 2 hours long. I feel like it's already going to be about 40 minutes long, so I want to, you know, only cover a few ones. But finally, I want to talk about one that's probably going to be very controversial, and it's something that I'm probably going to get a lot of pushback on. Probably not as much pushback as, you know, the delayed quickscoping thing, but it is the Phlogistinator. And this would be quite simple changes, such as the oomph meter, or have you pronounce it, the meter, now requires damage specifically from the Phlog to build. So you can no longer farm it by spamming Scorch Shot. You have to actually burn people with the Phlog, the actual weapon that you're using the crits with. I feel like, you know, that makes sense. That's like a pretty good, like, nerf to the Phlog without completely, like, changing it. I had a couple ideas to, like, fully change it and rework it. Like, what if it used mini crits? Or what if instead of doing extra damage, it fully negated any kind of healing, like it gave like a curse debuff to people where it just negated all their healing for a while, so you could guarantee that you burn somebody and then they die from that afterburn. But no, this is a pretty simple change. I was like, I was talking to a friend on a engineer main server, the Engineer TF. You should probably join it if you're an engineer nerd. There's a lot of cool discussions going on. I've advertised this before. And this was a very good idea. You can no longer spam farm it with Detonator or Scorch Shot. You have to farm it with the Phlog. And in addition, the invulnerability and move cancelling will be removed. Smile. I say in a way that probably the move cancelling will not be removed because it's a bug. But the move cancelling was removed from Eureka Effect. Eureka Effect used to function in a way that if you did the taunt and then someone shot you and you moved off the edge of a cliff, like the tactic was to sit on the bad water first by the cliff edge where you have like the meta gun spot looking down over a tunnel, and if someone shoots you when you're taunting, you fall off the cliff and you instant teleport back to spawn. That still works for the Phlog, and I'm surprised they nerfed it on the Eureka Effect when they didn't nerf it on the Phlog, the one that gives you uber charge and crits. Not just that, but it gives you Uber charge for a set duration. So if you Uber and then get move cancelled, you'll still have the Uber even though your taunt has stopped. That is so crazy to me that they nerfed it from the Eureka effect, but they didn't nerf it from this weapon, which is clearly more oppressive. Like Flog is such a big issue in pubs. If you are playing in a pub and you got like an enemy on a pre-made enemy on the enemy team that's like a Flog buyer with a medic, you're like, well, fuck this game. Because it's just like, it just sucks. And there's not much you can really do about it unless you spend like having everybody in your team focusing this person down. Or you're just, you know, like 8 divisions above their skill level, which is rare when you're playing casual. But in addition to that, we have FACEIT, which I found to be a very fun and pleasurable experience. I ordered a year's subscription to it because I didn't necessarily plan on playing it a bunch, but I wanted to thank FACEIT for putting support for this dead video game. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to give them a year's subscription, sure. And then about a week after I did that, I just stopped playing FACEIT because every single game, it was just Flog medic duos. Like, that's the thing with FACEIT, which turned into a very interesting social experiment, is that once you gave these very strong incentives for people to, like, win, like, try hard to win because there were, like, monetary rewards, like, you got to see how tryhard and sweaty TF2 can be, and you just saw a lot of Flog pyros of medics. And that's a good social experiment way of going, huh, maybe Flog is a problem. Maybe we should nerf Logistinator, you know? Like, if this is the ideal strategy to win every game with very little skill, obviously you're still going to get stacks that go in that are like invite Sixes players who are going to play Sixes classes. Sure, yeah, but the majority of the people playing like Flog medic because it's a pretty consistent low skill floor thing, maybe Flog is a problem, and maybe we should fix it. Anyway, this has just been a ramble of potential ideas. I don't plan on necessarily having any of these get into the game. I hope. It would be cool. It's fun to talk about them sometimes, all these potential ideas, but it's also fun just in case the heavy update rolls around, a couple of these changes get in and I'm like, yes, I predicted correctly. My brain is expanding. But either way, I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble on about these potential wacky ideas. It's been quite fun. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, like the video. Did you know only a small percentage of people are subscribed to my channel? Smile. See, I'm gonna go. Bye.